breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Colby Marchio. He does great work over at Your Betting News. We're going to be chatting with him about how he's playing the prop market right now. We're also going to be chatting with him about a few teams that he's starting to feel a little bit bullish / bearish on in this baseball landscape. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter / X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRZM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter / X questions, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Colorado Rockies just continue to lose games. They fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks 8-2. Eduardo Rodriguez, a relatively solid start. He gives up a solo home run over the course of 7 innings. You would also have Jalen Beeks give up a solo home run in his inning of work for the Diamondbacks. You also had Juan Marchio give you a scoreless inning for the Rockies. You had a home run off the bat of Kyle Farmer, 6th home run season, and Brenton Doyle, his 11th. And for Bradley Blaylock, he's posting up an ERA at home that is now north of a 12. He gave up 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings, including a pair of Rockets, as Lourdes Gurriel, 15th home run season. Jose Herrera, the backup catcher, 2nd home run in the campaign. From there, the bullpen actually was not too bad, as Duggan Darnell, 2 scoreless innings. Anthony Molina, 2 1/3 innings. He gives up a run. Nick Anderson, a scoreless inning, but way too little, way too late for the Colorado Rockies. For the Detroit Tigers, Tariq Skubal wasn't overly sharp in this one, but they find a way to persevere. 4-3, the final in 11 innings. Skubal gives up 3 runs over the course of 7 innings, including a home run to Edouard Julien. That is Julien's 3rd home run in the campaign, and for Skubal, just 3 strikeouts in his 7 innings. But Kyle Finnegan, along with Tyler Holton and Rafael Montero, they all give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Riley Green does go deep off of Bailey Ober's 28th home run season. Ober gives up 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Cody Funderburk, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. You had Michael Tonkin give you a scoreless inning along with Brooks Kriske, 2 scoreless innings out of Cole Sands, but then in the 11th inning, Erasmo Ramirez gives up an unearned run on a sacrifice fly that decided the game. And for the Atlanta Braves, it's been decided that they suck this year, but they do take down the New York Mets 4-3 the final as the Mets 2-13 in their last 15 games. For the Atlanta Braves, Ozzie Albies goes deep off Kodai Senga for his 10th home run season. Senga gives up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Ryan Helsley, that prized acquisition at the deadline, gives up 2 runs in an inning, and he takes a loss. Tyler Rogers, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Edwin Diaz, a scoreless inning, and Francisco Lindor does go deep off of Bryce Elder, 22nd home run season, but Elder has looked elderly thus far this season. 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 7 innings. Dylan Lee, Raciel Iglesias from there, they both turn a scoreless inning, and for the Washington Nationals, they turn their big giant plus money line into a win, 3-2 the final. Jesus Luzardo gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. Been a rough last few months for him. Paul DeYoung takes him deep, 5th home run season. For Brad Lord, he said, "Oh Lord, this was solid." 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. From there, Jackson Rutledge was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jose Ferrer, Cole Henry, they both under scoreless inning. And Shinkusuke Ogasawara was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Phillies, you had a pair of scoreless innings, Orion Kirkering and David Robertson, both able to turn that scoreless inning. For the Cleveland Guardians, all of a sudden they are getting very close in the AL wildcard hunt. 9-4 the final. They take down the Miami Marlins as for the Fish, Edward Cabrera gives up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings. You had from there, Lake Bakar gave you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Valentin Beluso did pitch like a bozo. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 2 innings. And then for the Cleveland Guardians, this was not necessarily what Tanner Bybee had in mind. 4 runs, 2 of which were earned, give it up in 5 2/3 innings. Hurt by an Austin Hedges backup catcher error, so that was a little bit less than amazing. But from there, you had Cade Smith and Nick Enright combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Eric Zabrowski, Hunter Gaddis. They both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Toronto Blue Jays, they have been one of your best over teams in all of baseball, especially when they've been at home this season. For the Blue Jays, 34 overs, 24 unders, and 2 pushes, but They get the job done against the Chicago Cubs in a low-scoring slog, 2-1 the final is. For the Cubs, Matthew Boyd pretty solid in this one. 2 runs allowed in 7 innings, including a home run to Vlad Guerrero Jr., his 20th home run season. For Max Scherzer, gives up a solo run in his 7 innings of work, as that was to Michael Busch, 24th home run season. But for the Jays, Brandon Little and Sir Anthony Dominguez combined for a scoreless inning. Jeff Hoffman at scoreless inning, and Drew Pomeranz came in. He provided the Chicago Cubs with a scoreless inning of his own. And then you did see the Seattle Mariners fall to the Baltimore Orioles, this by a count of 5-3, as for Baltimore, Tamayuki Sugano, a relatively solid start here, gives up 1 run in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Rico Garcia does give up a solo run in his 2/3 of an inning of work, as for the Seattle Mariners going deep, Julio Rodriguez, 24th home run of the campaign. You did have Dietrich Hens give up a run in an inning, but Keegan Aiken, Cade Stout, they both give you a scoreless inning. And for the Orioles, they did a nice job of roughing up Logan Evans, who gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 4 innings. From there, Carlos Vargas gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Casey Lugumina, Caleb Ferguson combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Jackson Cower a scoreless inning. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been quite a bit of an underwhelming season, with the under hitting at 51.8%, 901 unders to 839 overs, while favorites are hitting at 56.8% on the money line, 1,022 and 776. Meanwhile, over the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, relatively online with that favorites hit rate 51 and 38, so that's 57.3%, and the under hitting at about 50-50. We've seen 45 overs, 44 unders, and I believe 4 pushes along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do talk with one of our good friends, Colby Marchio, does great work over at Your Betting News right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Colby Marchio aboard. He does such great work over at Your Betting News, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He's been doing a great job with his celebration videos, whether that be with the K props, whether that be with the total bases, the home runs. You always do love to see it. I know that he has been very busy doing a lot of different shows. Up Your Units is one of the big ones as well, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Kobe M. Betts. And Kobe, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned the pitcher one. That was my first ladder video. I'm glad you got to see that one. I always look forward to hoping you see them.
Oh, yes. We always have to keep our finger on the pulse of all of your celebration videos, Kobe, because I know that you're doing an excellent job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And just what have been some of the props that you've been focusing on post-trade deadline and over the last few weeks? Because I know you're adding in there a few more pitcher props. I know that with regards to home run props, obviously they're always going to be hit or miss because that's the nature of home run props. But what have you all been taking a look at over the last few weeks?
I've been honing in, like I think I said last time I was on here, on going back to my bread and butter last year, which was first 5 team total overs. A couple of books offer them, so if you don't see it on your book, go just shop around, because it's better to shop around. And first of all, always shop around. It's very smart to have more than one book. But first 5 team total overs have been very good to me. I start my day out going, what team can I take today? And then I go on from there. I've taken pitcher walk props. I try to find strikeout props, try to find hitter walk and hitter strikeout props on a day-to-day basis. Shout out to Adam Rosenberg for his website Handigraphs. It has been awesome. It has been an awesome tool that I've added to my arsenal every single day, and I adore it. I'm a massive nerd when it comes to numbers that are done for me. I'm not a math guy, Greg. I want the numbers done for me, and if I can find them with ease, it makes me sound smarter, and that is all I care about. So first 5 team total overs are definitely – I'm not a pitcher earn runs guy because, one, you could get screwed, and they're usually the same price for not having to worry about an error. So my advice to anyone out there that has been earn runs this season, do not touch that prop, in my opinion. It's not worth it. You can go get a team's first 5 at the same price and the same number for the most part, from what I've seen when I've double-checked me saying what I'm saying right now. But I think taking the first 5 team total is smarter. If the price is bad, take the first 5 money line. And if your book doesn't, if you don't have any legal book that you can take that prop, then maybe you can go take the earn runs. But I don't ever see the need to take the earn runs on a pitcher.
Yeah, I don't really either because sometimes you just have some funky things that happen with regards to
Yeah.
the errors as well. Because if a pitcher commits an error, they're actually off the hook with regards to earned runs, which I think that that's something that MLB should do away with. If you commit the error as a pitcher, you should be held accountable for those runs.
Yeah.
That's me personally, but I am right there with you. I do think that that's interesting to be diving in on. And I know that obviously the biggest thing that you've done all season long have been the home run props. And obviously that is in conjecture with total bases. Have there been a few guys that you've been taking a look at a little bit more? Because I know that you were getting into the big dumper, I should say, a little bit more of him being able to dump some loads on Big Dumper has been interesting to say the least. And I know that there are a few other guys that have been joining the mix recently as well.
I try to find the right spots to take the big crapper and hope he takes a big poop on the opposing pitchers. But my advice to people out there that are fans of Cal Raleigh, I'm iffy when it comes to him with at least the AL MVP, but his props on a day-to-day basis. My advice for people out there that want to be on Cal or they're looking for days to back him, don't touch his bases. Don't touch his double. If you want to be on Cal, it's strictly home run because he's not really doing anything else aside from home runs. Sure, he'll get a single. Sure, if you want to take him in a hit prop parlay, do that. That's fine. Makes sense. If his hit is priced at under minus 170, I think it's a go there as well. Don't take his bases because if you're thinking he's going to homer, just bet the homer at a better price. He doesn't double. He hasn't hit a double as of the time of this recording since June 27th. Has not doubled in that long. Also, he doesn't tend to get 2 hits a game. Never. It's usually one and done, and he strikes out the rest, or maybe he walks. So just take the home run. That is my advice for the people going forward. I've been making sure I've been taking my own advice because sometimes it's plus 110. I'm like, well, maybe he gets 2 hits. He gets lucky. It's not worth it. Just sprinkle on the home run, in my opinion.
Yep, he is an all or nothing player, and those are always interesting to take a look at. And are there a few other guys that you take a look at that maybe you'd be willing to sprinkle on a home run, but their total bases is just frankly not worth it? Because I remember back in the day, and this is way, way back in the day, Joey Gallo was always that guy. He would never hit for a single.
Yeah.
He would always hit for a home run or he would strike out. So yeah, always had him as being one of those guys that would be certainly in the Cal Raleigh vein. But are there a few other guys that you take a look at where they are very much all or nothing?
I'm trying to think, and I really think he's the only one where you would just take the home run because you could say I've compared him to Kyle Schwarber. You could get Kyle Schwarber's hits, runs, RBI at a great price on a regular too.
Draws a lot of walks.
He draws a ton of walks. And sometimes he hits doubles. I mean, if you're getting a price at Kyle Schwarber above plus 120, I think it's worth taking. Aaron Judge and Shohei, another guys that hit a ton of home runs. If the price for their bases sucks, take the double and the home run. I did that with Vladdy on Sunday, and he did all the above and the bases. So that is a way to go as well. You just sprinkle them. Don't go all out because some guys have really insane prices for their double. Like Vlad was 5-1. I was like, I really want to be on 5-1 for a double. It's better than his home run. And how many guys hit a ball off the wall all the time? Especially all the home run hitters. So I think it's smart if you don't like the bases. Thinking if you like his bases and the price is terrible, well, the double is right there and the home run. So you get screwed on 2 hits and a triple. I think you can live with that if you're getting a really good price.
Yep, I am right there with you, and I think that that is such good advice to have as Colby Marchio. He does such a tremendous job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball over at Your Betting News. He is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and with regards to pitcher props, I know that that's something that you've been taking a look at a little bit more. Logan Webb has been one of your main guys, but is there anything in particular that you might be taking a look at on the pitcher front? Because you mentioned not taking the earned runs, but in terms of some of these strikeout pitchers, how do you take a look at some of them? Because I know that we've got a guy by the name of Mid-Major Matt, aka Matt Josephs. He joins this show quite a bit. He does a lot on that front as well, and I think that's really interesting, taking a look at some of these guys where their strikeout props seem to get a little bit overinflated from time to time, and there are some other guys where they're over under is 3.5, where sometimes that could be where the real value lies.
I typically go towards the overs. I have gone unders. My favorite pitcher prop of all time, Greg, is openers under strikeouts. If you get their good spot, they usually price it at 1.5, and it is the best sweat of all time. But I'm usually taking the high strikeout guys because I want to fade the opposing teams that strike out a ton, like the Pirates. Just saw them yesterday with Freddie Peralta. I was iffy on that one. I don't even know what he ended with, but I know he went over. But that was like juiced 135. I'm not paying that. I'm not paying that for Freddie Peralta, who's very inconsistent, but is a really good strikeout pitcher. Like, the Pirates are a team I want to fade with a good strikeout pitcher. The Angels, Scooble, I thought he was going to have like 14 strikeouts last Friday. Didn't. And I basically ripped up my AL MVP. But mostly I'm taking the studs that strike out a ton. Garrett Crochet didn't do well for me on Monday, but it is what it is. But anything where the data stands out, where this is a team that's striking out at a high rate, I want to be on top of that.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that that's important to be taking a look at. And how much, with regards to taking a look at these pitcher props, do you actually take a look not so much at the pitcher, but you take a look at sort of the opposing team and how much they do/do not strike out? Because a team like the Houston Astros, they always seem to make a lot of contact. Meanwhile, you've got some of these teams with a very high whiff rate, like the LA Angels, for example. They have been striking out a lot this year. And I always think that that's such a big component of it as well.
Yeah, like the Royals, they don't strike out and they don't walk. I kind of don't want to be on an opposing pitcher's props because they just don't strike out or walk. I have taken, I forgot who it was, but I took his walks. I'm like, this price is so nice. And the Royals shockingly walked, but it was the same guy twice. So that I'm starting to, I want to find more walk props. I want to find it for both sides. I think that's a really good market to attack. If they have really high walk rates, like, I want to be on that. It's a fun prop to sweat out, and it's a lot different than a strikeout. So we need more pitches there. So that's something I've been looking at too, and it's fun. I'm trying to be like Adam Rosenberg. The guy just has the most niche props, and that's the coolest thing about baseball. Everyone has their own like niche. Like, he's the double play. I guess you could say I'm the first five guy. Everyone else is like player props, but like Yurfy Nerfy. There's so many props out there on a day-to-day basis that some people aren't even talking about. They probably have the wrong price on a day-to-day basis. Me personally, I don't think the books know how to price baseball at all because it's such a high turnover and nobody bets it as high as they do with basketball or the NFL, obviously. So people tend to forget that it's baseball. It's not every other sport. So if a price is a certain way, it's probably just significant value if you think it's wrong.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that it's so interesting to be taking a look at these props as well, because there's just so much more volatility when it comes to player props rather than just taking a look at the raw game total, the money line, the run line, what have you. And I do think that there's much more value to be had because these props, they move like the moment that they go up when you get a bad one. And I think that that's where you could really be able to find a little bit more of an advantage rather than betting a full game money line / total.
100%. Like, people will message me on Twitter and be like, is Judge plus or is Judge hit even money worth taking? And I was like, 1,000%, 10 times out of 10, you should be on that play regardless. It's Aaron Judge. That price should never, it was boosted, but that price should never be there. Just like his bases, just like Shohei's bases. You can blindly tail those plays if they're plus money and not feel bad about losing because you're on the right side. Sometimes with baseball, I always say this, being on the right price may be the biggest win of the day, even if none of those plays win, because you did the research, you know what's right and wrong. So you're getting plus money, significant value. Be happy you're on it, because I am all the time. Like Riley Green today was minus 165 to get a hit. He was, from what I looked at, the best hitter to tail today, and he went 0 for 3 with a walk. So I can live with that.
Yep, absolutely. And Colby, we haven't talked to you since we had the trade deadline come and go. Is there a team or two that you might be willing to take a shot on with regards to the futures market? Because we have been seeing some of these teams starting to trend up. The Seattle Mariners obviously went for it at the trade deadline, and that is paying out very handsomely for them. We have seen some teams not go for it and have went down the toilet bowl, though the Milwaukee Brewers didn't do a whole heck of a lot, and they are currently surging. But how do you take a look at things right now with regards to the futures market and maybe a team or two that you're feeling bullish / bearish on heading into the final month and a half of the regular season?
I took the Guardians to make the playoffs at 5-1. I think it was like I got plus 170 something, but I think it was a great price. I'm like, okay, this team didn't buy nor sell really at the deadline. They had the 8th easiest schedule after the deadline. I was like, okay, they could definitely make their way into at least a chance to make it. And right now they're like neck and neck with the Yankees. And I think they still have a chance. They're playing great ball. I think they're very dangerous when they're hot offensively. Jose Ramirez is going to probably carry them to the postseason. And if the rotation can be serviceable, I think I can cash that play. It's also a really good price, in my opinion, for a team that really didn't do much, but they didn't lose anything. And I have a lot of respect for that team because they have some pretty decent players on there. Teams I'm bullish about is shockingly the Mariners. Greg, I hate that team. I hate that team so much. And not that I don't like the city of Seattle or I don't like the Mariners. I just don't like this team and how they're performing. I think they're overperforming on a significant level. Like I was just putting my respect on Cal Raleigh. He's batting 133 in August. He's not a threat. If all he's going to do is homer, you can work around that in the postseason by just walking the guy because everybody else isn't really doing anything except for Josh Naylor. Okay, you got Eugenio Suarez, who's batting under 230. Ooh, terrifying. I was one of the only people that said the Suarez get wasn't that big of a deal because you just went and got third base Cal Raleigh. All he does is homer, which is cool, which is great. You need that on a roster, but you really need guys on base in consistent contact. So I think it comes crashing down sooner or later. They're definitely going to make the postseason, which I hate because I have their under on their win total, 84.5. But I don't see them making out of the AL. And if they do, they're going to get murdered in the World Series. I think any AL team gets murdered in the World Series.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to see what we get out of the entire American League because I'm right there with you. I think that the real power is in the National League, and the real power when it comes to this podcast is always having great guests aboard like you, Colby. You do such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball. You always provide fun and entertainment, whether that be on the prop front, whether that be just in general, some of the videos that you put out, as I know you've done a beer review or two in your day as well. So let the good people at home
couple stouts.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
100%. If you want to go out and give me a follow on X/Twitter, the cool kids still call it Twitter. I call it Twitter. I'm not cool though. It's Colby M Betts. That's ColbyMBETS. All my write-ups are posted on there from Betting News. Betting News has all my write-ups as well. Everything is always free. The picks are always free. The fun is always free. People forget we're here to have fun. I'm not getting rich, so let's just try to have some fun. So that's where everything you can find me at Colby M Betts on Twitter/X. And Greg, thank you as always for inviting me on. I'm always a yes for you, though.
Absolutely. And Colby is always a yes for providing great analysis and always providing a great interview for us. So big thanks, Colby, for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VC Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast, taking you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be joined by Colby Marchio. He does such great work over at Your Betting News, taking a look at this great game of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Colby for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Now, we do have a few games that are off the board. We just sometimes get that on Fridays, unfortunately, so we will do our best with those. And if there are any changes that are made on any sort of a platform that you're downloading this, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, list goes on and on. In the description, I always put the link to the handicap spreadsheet that I have up on VSiN, so that'll keep you guys all in the loop with regards to any changes that might be made by those pitching changes. So we start with time 51 and 52 on the betting board. Speaking of which, you've got the Cubs that are playing host to the Pittsburgh Pirates. As of right now, it is TBD for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Meanwhile, we do know that it's going to be Colin Ray saying it Pepper do another start for the Chicago Cubs. Now, it looks like it's going to be Braxton Ashcraft getting the start for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and for Braxton Ashcraft, this would essentially be him pitching like 4 or so innings and a little bit more of a bulk game for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I did set the money line price at a minus 233 on the Cubs, but I'd be looking a little bit more at the run line, which I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 120 on. I would need at least a plus 234 to take a shot on the Pirates and set a total of 10.1. 10 or less, I'm in on the over 10.5 or higher. The under, you do have a guy in Colin Ray who's been pitching to a lot of contact this year. He faces off against the Pirates team that's only averaging about 3.55 runs per game. That is dead last in all of baseball, but for Ray, 4.09 ERA compared to a 4.67 fielding dependent, 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's pitching to quite a bit of contact, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and Ashcraft should be coming into this game whether he be the starter or the bulk guy. 3.19 ERA. He is transitioning into a little bit more of a bulk role, was getting about 8 strikeouts at 3 walks per 9 innings, but having to go a little bit longer could be a little bit costly for a Pirates bullpen that hasn't been great, hasn't been bad. They obviously traded away David Bennar at the trade deadline, but for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you take a look at them overall this season, they're hovering right around about 21st in terms of bullpen ERA. Chase Shogert has been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA, Dennis Santana a sub 2.75 ERA. Some of the longer guys have been a bit hit or miss like Carmen Milodzinski, but now you have to face off against a Cubs team that does rank in the top 4 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, as you've got so many fearsome guys. Seiya Suzuki, Pete Armstrong have been very rock solid. Now Miguel Amaya are going to be going on the injury list, but Suzuki and Armstrong have been able to give you 27 home runs apiece, and then you just have a lot of guys in general move the line. With Amaya on the injured list, that means more opportunity for a catcher that's done a really good job this year in Carson Kelly. 370 on base, 13 home runs at about 260 at bats, and then you've had Michael Busch give you 345 on base, 23 home runs. Kyle Tucker, 380 on base, 18 home runs. Even Nico Horner, who doesn't necessarily hit for a lot of power, he's hitting for average at about a 290. And for the Pirates, you've got 3 guys on the roster, and it's now the middle of August, that have more than 5 home runs. Brian Reynolds, Oneil Cruz, along with Andrew McCutchen. Now, for Cruz, he has been able to give you 18 home runs, but that said, you just take a look at all these guys hitting a 210 or lower for this team. Emmanuel Valdez, Alexander Canario has been out of the fold for quite a while, Jared Trollo, Henry Davis, Jack Swinitsky, just so many guys are not getting the job done for this team. For the Pirates, I do think that's going to be a rough go of it. You have to think that Ashcraft pitches in some form or capacity, and for the Cubs, this has been a team that's been right around about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA, but you do have a lot of veteran guys that have just been able to find a home for this team. Chris Flexen hasn't been seen in quite a while, but he's been a relatively good long guy when he's been out there, but you've got the likes of Caleb Theobar, Daniel Palencia, Drew Pomerantz, Brad Keller, who have all been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. So with the Cubs willing to lay up to a minus 120 on that run line, plus 234 higher, looking at the Pirates and then 10 or less, I like the over 10.5 or higher, the under. 953, 954 on the card. The Brewers are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati. They're on to Nick Martinez, getting the start for them. And for the Brewers, it's old TBD who's going to be on the bump for them. This game is off the board. The reason why this game is off the board is it looks like Jacob Mizorowski is going to be coming off the injury list for the Brewers. If it is indeed the Miz, I set the Brewers at a minus 148 on the money line. Would be willing to go up to a minus 147 there. Plus 149 or higher would be looking at the Reds. And then set a total of an 8.8. So 8.5 or less in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. And if it's on Mizorowski and if it's someone else, that would probably be a difference of about 20 to 25 cents for the Brewers. Typically, it'd be a little bit more, but Mizorowski, with him just coming off the injured list, as we are expecting in this start, he's probably only going to go like 3 or 4 innings. This probably won't be a full 5+ innings out of him, but when he's been out there, and the last time he pitched was on the 28th of July, so a little bit over 2 weeks. 12.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, just absolutely blowing guys away. 270 ERA, 311 fielding dependent. He has been absolutely magnificent. He has given up a grand total of now 8 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts as well, so he has been rocking and rolling there. And for Nick Martinez of the Cincinnati Reds, he's been very good in terms of the control and the command. He does get it quite hard though, as for Martinez, he's only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.49 ERA. Doesn't necessarily give up a lot of home runs, 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but he's giving up a lot of, for lack of a better term, doubles power. So that's been a little bit costly to him. Now for Nick Martinez, comes in really good form, having given up either 1 or 2 runs in each out of his last 4 starts. He had a bulk appearance where he gave up 2 runs in like 2 1/3 innings. I really didn't count that. So just looking at things in terms of him starting and starting only, but for the Brewers, this team is absolutely mashing on the road thus far this season. For the Milwaukee Brewers, number 1 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game on the road, 5.76 runs per game. And this despite the fact that the Milwaukee Brewers, they're not necessarily a power hitting team. They're 21st in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. The lone healthy player on this roster that has more than 12 home runs right now is Christian Yelich. And for Christian Yelich, he has really been able to put together a nice season. Not quite MVP form good with Christian Yelich, but still, he's been able to supply for this team 23 home runs. He's giving you about a 340 on base, but that's the thing with Brewers. Just everyone is moving the line, getting on base. Caleb Durbin, Yelich, Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Isaac Collins, Andrew Vaughn in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only. All these guys have given you at least a 338 on base. Blake Perkins has come off the injury list and he's giving you a bit of something. Like, everyone is just producing for this team. They're one of the better base stealing teams in all baseball. And for the Brewers, since the beginning of the month of June, a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well. They were relying upon the likes of Yo Payamps, Elvis Peguero towards the beginning part of the season in the bullpen. Both guys pooped the bed, so they replaced them with the likes of Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, DL Hall, Nick Mears. All these guys are giving you a 3 ERA or better. And for the Cincinnati Reds, right around about a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. Emilio Pagan gives up a few more home runs than what I'd like, but he's still been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Tony Santillan has been having its ups and downs recently, but still about a 3 ERA. Brent Suter, Luis Mayer, right around about a 350. So they're not going to wow you, but they're not bad. And for the Reds, Ellie De La Cruz has obviously been the main man for the team in terms of being able to supply offense. He's been able to give you 19 home runs. He's up to about a 350 on base, and he's been able to give you the 31 stolen bags. But now you've got Gavin Lux, DJ Friedel doing a relatively solid job helping out this team. For Friedel, about a 370 on base, 10 home runs. You've had Gavin Lux give you a 360 on base as well. Spencer Steer starting to give you a little bit of power as well. He's up to 14 home runs. Austin the Says kid been regressing a little bit recently, but he and Novalli Marte coming off the injury list have helped this team out as well with regards to their offense. So, interesting spot here. If it is Mizorowski against Nick Martinez, minus 148 is where I'm setting that Brewers money line at, so we'd be willing to lay up to a minus 147 there, plus 149 or higher. Looking at Martinez. If it's not Mizorowski, that's a difference of about 20 to 25 cents. And in Mizorowski versus Martinez, 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under. If it's not Mizorowski, 9 or less to the over, 9.5 or higher the under. 955, 956 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies at the road, they're facing off against the Washington Nationals. Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored for the Nats, and Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler is on the bum for the Phillies. And the Phillies are between minus 165 to minus 176 favorites, anywhere between plus 143 to a plus 151 is that number on Washington. And 8 is the total. The under is between minus 115 to a minus 120. The over is between even and minus 105. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Philadelphia Phillies, we have to utilize the old FanDuel opener on this one, but I'm right now seeing that at a minus 105, and I would be willing to lay the minus 105. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 105 and really not a hair more, but we are willing to go there because for Mackenzie Gore, man, this has just not been a good stretch for them, albeit his last start was much better than his last few, but it does feel like the wheels are starting to fall off just a little bit for Mackenzie Gore. The strikeout numbers have been very good for him, and if you look at the fielding independent numbers, he should be doing for a little bit of positivity. 4.09 ERA compared to a 3.55 fielding independent, 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. 3.2 walks per 9 innings is actually a career low for him, but, man, he has given up 6+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts. That's not something that you want to see. Again, last start against the San Francisco Giants, 10 punch-outs in 6 scoreless innings. That is something that you do like to see, but then you take a look at what he's backed up by for the Washington Nationals. Dead stinking last in terms of bullpen ERA. Just so many guys that are going out there, and for lack of a better term, they're not getting the job done. Zach Brzezicki, Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rebalta, Jose Ferrer, all these guys that are posting up an ERA that is well above a 4.75. And for the Washington Nationals, what I think is very ironic about this team is that they have been hitting much better when they've been on the road rather than when they've been at home. For the Washington Nationals, this team is actually checking in number 7 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home. At home, they're in the bottom 10. They're averaging about 3.95 runs per game at home. CJ Abrams, for example, he's been rock solid. He's been able to give you 16 home runs thus far this season, hitting about a 265. Only 3 of those home runs have come at home thus far this season. As a matter of fact, they've got 2 healthy players with more than 3 home runs this far this season. James Wood, 25 bombs overall, 360 on base. Nathaniel Lowe, he's been able to give you 16 home runs, but he's hitting at 216. Josh Bell, albeit he's been much better recently. Bell has been able to hit above a 280 since the beginning of the month of July. They traded away Alex Call at the trade deadline, but you know what? Some of these younger guys have been able to step up, like a Dalen Lyles hitting at 260, Robert Hassell's hitting at 250, Brady House. It's been a little bit up and down, needs to learn to draw a few walks, but he's been able to give a little bit of production. And then on the other end, you do have a Philadelphia Phillies bullpen that they themselves leaves something to be desired, although Yohan Duran, he's someone that is very rock solid. He certainly fortifies his bullpen, and then you've been able to have Orion Kirkering be able to give you a sub-325 ERA. Tanner Banks hasn't been awful for this bullpen at about a 320 as well. Max Laser, though, has not been great. Joe Ross has been awful, and for Jordan Romano, man, above a 70 ERA. But for the Philadelphia Phillies, this is a team that's averaging over 5 runs per game at home, top 5 offense with regards to run creation when they are at home. Getting back Bryce Harper is big. He's been able to give you 18 home runs. He's up to about a 355 on base. Kyle Schwarber has obviously been the straw that stirs the drink. 42 bombs, 370 on base. And then you do have Nick Castellanos up to 15 home runs, hitting about a 250. Trey Turner, 26 stolen bases. Just does a little bit of everything. 12 home runs, 340 on base. And then you've had JT Realmuto since the beginning of the month of June at above a 300. Alec Boehm has been doing a solid job of getting on base. Max Kepler does have 12 home runs, but he's not hitting for a lot of average. But I do think that this team is going to do a solid job of getting to go. But more importantly, I do think that they get into this bullpen. That said, I do think that you've got some good value here to the under because Zach Wheeler, I know it's been a little bit up and down for him in his last few starts, but I think that he goes out there and he wheels and deals. 2.68 ERA overall for the season, posting up 11.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up 1.9 walks, 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, closer to a 292 fielding dependent. Has given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but do think that the arrow is going to be ticking up for him. So semi-total 7.7. I think that we get a bounce back from Gore, so in on the 8 under, and for the Phillies, 1 to lay up to a -105 on that run line. 9.57, 9.58 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road. They're facing off against the Colorado Rockies. Tanner Gordon goes for Colorado, and Brandon Pfaadt looks a battle for Arizona. Right now, the total is 11.5. The over is -115, and the under is -105. And for Arizona, between -182 to -184 is that money line price, and you're getting between +158 to a +165 on Colorado. Now we go to the old FanDuel opener here, and to lay a run half for the Arizona Diamondbacks, that is currently at a -126. Very willing to lay that. I was willing to go up to a -142 here for Brandon Pfaadt. Recognize that he is having a little bit of a less than amazing season, as he's right now posting up a 5.03 ERA, 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. That is a career worst number for him. He's been giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but Tanner Gordon, 8.37 ERA. He had a few halfway decent starts to begin the season, and ever since then, it has went straight down the toilet bowl for him. He has given up 24 runs, 23 of which were earned over the course of his last 3 starts. He's backed up by a bullpen that ranks 29th in the big leagues. Now, the Arizona Diamondbacks are a bottom 7 team as well in terms of bullpen ERA, so that's a little bit less than savory, but I mean, it's not the Colorado Rockies who they have to trade away Jake Bird at the trade deadline, so they get a little bit gutted with that regard. For the Rockies, Victor Vodnik has actually been halfway decent. He's been able to give you a sub-4 ERA, but now you have to have Seth Halverson go on the injured list. Juan Mejia has been giving you an ERA just a little bit above a 4, and then Duggan Darnell, he's actually been halfway decent coming off of the, shall we say, minor league scrap heap. He's been able to give you sub-350 ERA, but I mean, just a lot of guys like Anel Shavili and company that are just all over the place. And then on the other end, you've got a Arizona Diamondbacks team that, because they traded away Shelby Miller, they really don't have a lot of bullpen pieces themselves that you're able to rely upon. The likes of Kyle Bacchus, Jalen Beeks, Juan Marchio, John Curtis with 2 S's, all posting up above a 350 ERA. And for the Diamondbacks, is this the same lineup that we saw at the beginning part of the season? No, but they are still a top 8 team with regards to runs per game. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte above a 375 on base. He's giving you a home run every about 13 or so at bats. You've had Alec Thomas hit about a 250. For Corbin Carroll, he's starting to find it once again. Coming off the injured list, he was incredibly rough, but now he's been able to give you 3 home runs in the last 7 games. He's hitting a 250 for the season. Blaze Alexander, young gun, who's been able to give you about a 265 average. He's been eating up recently. Home runs in 2 out of the team's last 4 games, so you do like to see that. And with the Colorado Rockies, obviously a team that's much better with their offense when they're at home rather than away from home. You just take a look at some of these home and road splits, and they're extreme with everyone except for Hunter Goodman. Goodman has been able to supply 24 home runs as far this season, but he's actually hit more home runs when he's been away from home rather than when he has been at home. Puzzle me that, but I mean, you've got something like Jordan Beck who's hitting a 321 at home. On the road, that's darn near 100 points lower. Mickey Moniak, 309 average at home with 11 home runs. On the road, he is hitting more than 75 points worse than that. Ezekiel Tovar has hit darn near a 390 when he's been at home. He's been up, down, all around, but they've been able to get him back in the fold. So I do think that for the Colorado Rockies, they're going to do an okay job of getting to Pfaadt and this bullpen, but I mean, Tanner Gordon just looks miserable right now. So right now on that 11.5, I'm in on the over, so my total 11.6, and with the Diamondbacks, we'll delay up to a -142 on that run line. 959, 960 on the betting board. It is the San Diego Padres on the road against the LA Dodgers. Michael King was supposed to be the starter for the Padres, but he has been scratched. Right now it's looking like Randy Vasquez is going to get the start, so that's a little bit TBD, and he's going to be going up against Clayton Kershaw, so we shall see what we get here, but I've got my handicap. Set the Dodgers at a minus 169. Will be willing to take a plus 120 or higher on their run line. Would need at least plus 170 to take a shot on the Padres, and then made a total 9.2, 9 or less, looking at the over 9.5 or higher, the under, and if we get a Padres bullpen game, probably looking at more like a plus 150 on them, so about a 15-cent difference. But for Clayton Kershaw, he's been able to do a nice job in terms of not seriously hurting himself or anything like that. He doesn't give up a ton of walks. He's actually been able to keep the ball in the yard quite well this year, but this is just not the Clayton Kershaw that we all know and love, as he's just not getting a lot of swings and misses this year. 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Other than perhaps his rookie year, that is by far a career low for him. You've had him post up, though, a 3.14 ERA, 0.8 home runs, 2.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, so he's been able to do a rock-solid job in terms of just holding down the fort in general for this team, and he's backed up by a bullpen that has been a little bit better recently ever since they picked up Brock Stewart at the trade deadline. Alex Vesey has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Jack Dreyer has been a relatively good long guy, and you get Blake Trinan off the injured list, but Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, they're both still on the injured list. Now for the LA Dodgers, this is a number one offense in terms of runs per game at home. They had a little bit of an issue in July in terms of being able to pump out the deep ball, but now you've got Max Muncy back, and that is massive for the team. 390 on base, 17 home runs. Shohei Ohtani continues to do Shohei Ohtani things, 43 home runs. He's giving you about a 390 on base. Andy Paz has been rock solid with his 19 home runs, hitting at 280. You've had Teoscar Hernandez give you 18 bombs. He's hitting about a 255. Freddie Freeman continues at 300 for this team as well. And Will Smith obviously getting jiggy with it, north of a 400 on base, and then for the San Diego Padres, this is a unit that is very much fortified by the trade that they made with the Baltimore Orioles, being able to bring in Ramon Laureano and bringing in Ryan O'Hearn, pair of guys with above a 335 on base and 13 plus home runs. That helps out a lineup that has been in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis. Xander Bogaerts, since the beginning of the month of June, is hitting darn near 300, though. He's picked it up a bit. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., these have been your top two offensive pieces. For Machado, 20 home runs, 360 on base, 370 on base with 17 bombs out of Mr. Fernando Tatis Jr. And then Gavin Sheets has been able to give you 15 home runs. Luis Arias has been a little bit up and down, but it's still hitting at 290 for the season. Jake Cronenworth, 360 on base, so the power numbers have not necessarily been there for him. But here's the big thing for the San Diego Padres. Their bullpen. They are number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Just so many guys going out there giving you a sub 260 ERA. Adrian Marhone, Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan, Jason Adam, all these guys doing a very rock solid job in this bullpen. Wandy Peralta has been able to give you a sub 3.15 ERA. Robert Suarez had his issues towards like June in terms of blowing games, but he's been a little bit better recently. And if it is indeed Randy Vasquez, again, not necessarily confirmed quite yet, 3.93 ERA, but fielding dependent is more like a 5.31. He's very lucky that he doesn't have north of a 5 ERA. He's been giving up 4 walks per 9 innings, only 4.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. So I do think that the Dodgers, who now have Mike Buncy back in the fold and lead the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home at 5.7, get to him relatively good here. So 9 or less, looking at the over 9.5 or higher, the under for the Dodgers. Won't take plus 118 or higher on the run line. For the Padres, I would need at least a plus 170 to take a shot on them on the money line with Vasquez. Again, bullpen game, more like a plus 150 or so. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers hit the road. They're facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers, and you've got Chris Bassett taking a line and sinker for Toronto. Toronto is an underdog of between even money to plus 105. Meanwhile, between minus 113 to minus 125 is that number on Texas. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even money. And with Mr. deGrom and the Rangers, I set them pretty much at a pick'em price. I made them a plus 101, so being able to get even money or better, I'm going to be willing to fire in on the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line. Jacob deGrom had a really nice streak where I believe he went 18 straight starts with giving up 3 earned runs or fewer. We have seen that regression start to come through for him a little bit here, though, as he has given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 3 starts. Strikeout numbers are actually up, 8+ punchouts in 4 of his last 5 starts, and overall for the season, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he has been giving up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. That's tied for a career high from 2.86 ERA compared to a 3.53 fielding dependent, so that does have to be a little bit of a worry mark for you. Now, the good news for Jacob deGrom is he's backed up by a bullpen that has been one of the best in all of baseball. You've had Robert Garcia, Chris Martin, who albeit he's a little bit banged up, Cole Winn, Obi Milner, Shawn Armstrong, all these guys give you a sub 3.25 ERA for the Rangers, currently number 4 in all of baseball in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, Now for the Toronto Blue Jays, it's been a bit up and down with this bullpen as they're now number 17 in terms of ERA. The top guys have been pretty solid though. Braden Fisher along with Brandon Little are giving you sub 3 ERA. Uriel Rodriguez is more like a 3.30 in terms of that ERA. They didn't pick up a ton at the trade deadline, but Louis Varland was a nice pickup as well. They've just have had a Jeff Hoffman issue. He's not been great for the team thus far this season, but when it comes down to this lineup, it has been one that even with having George Springer being a little bit banged up, they still have been able to get quite a bit of pop with Dalton Varsho coming off the injury list, and he's been able to give you a home run every 10 to 10.5 at-bats. He has been tremendous there. Doesn't hit for a lot of average, but he's hitting for a whole bunch of power, and then you've got the likes of Addison Barger, Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, all between 16 and 19 home runs. Guerrero nearly a 400 on base. Bichette has been able to hit about a 295. You've got Barger hitting at 260. Oleander Kirk, don't call his name, he's hitting about a 295. And then Ernie Clement has been able to hit about a 285. So, I mean, this is a lineup that is very much getting the job done. You take a look at what this Blue Jays team has been able to do with regards to their offense at home. That's right around about 5.2 runs per game. That is number 2 in the American League in terms of runs per game. And I do think that they're going to get to DeGrom a little bit here. After Chris Bassett, it's been a little bit of a wobbly season for him as well, but I feel like he's pitched a little bit better than what his ERA would indicate, and he certainly does have some nice home and road splits as well. He's overall for the season, Mr. Bassett, got a 4.17 ERA, closer to a 4.17, fielding dependent. 8.5 strikeouts, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but you take a look at what Bassett has been able to do at home, and it's been almost a completely different pitcher. He's 8-0 with a 2.56 ERA at home. He's given up closer to about 0.95 home runs per 9 innings at home. On the road, he's giving up well above 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. So, circumstance where with the Blue Jays at a pick 'em or better, I'm going to be taking a shot on them on the money line. I do feel like this 7.5 is just one a little bit too low, so I told 7.9, so I'm in on the over. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Baltimore Orioles, and they're going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Houston Astros. We do know that we're going to be getting Framber Valdez on the bump for the Astros. As of right now, it's a little bit TBD with the Baltimore Orioles, which is a big reason why this game is off the board. Keep in mind that the Orioles had that long rain delay against the Seattle Mariners yesterday, so that was a little bit less than savory, but it should be Brandon Young here for the Orioles. And if you do get Brandon Young going up against Framber Valdez, I did set the Orioles as a pretty sizable underdog. I would need at least a plus 237 to be able to take a shot here, as I did set the Astros at a minus 136 on the money line. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 122 with regards to that run line, and I did set a total of an 8.1, so an 8 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. Now keep in mind with the Baltimore Orioles, they're averaging over 5 runs per game at home, but on the road, this shrinks all the way to about 3.55 runs per game. They're actually dead last in the American League in terms of runs per game away from home, and for Brandon Young, he just has not been able to put it together at the big league level. Looked like he was starting to do so. He had given up 300 runs or fewer in each of his previous 3 starts, and then at home against the Athletics, he gets completely torched for 6 runs in 3 innings. He's at the big league level, giving up 2 home runs and 4.1 walks per 9 innings, so that's been a little bit of an issue. He's getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not great, not terrible, but for Framber Valdez, he should be able to go out there and just very much be able to take it to him. For Framber Valdez, 2.97 ERA. His strikeout numbers have been very good this year. 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's given up a half home run per 9 innings. Among qualifying pitchers in the American League, that's number 1 in the American League. 2.97 fielding dependent to go along with that 2.97 ERA. Now he comes in around form as well, giving up 10 runs, 9 of which earned in his last 2 starts. That was also on the road against the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. So that's a little bit more forgivable. And for Houston, this is a lineup that is fortifying itself because now you've been able to get Jeremy Pena back. He's been able to above a 300 for the season. Astros, one of the best teams in all of baseball, always have been, always will be, in terms of not striking out, and Jose Altuve is starting to look like the Jose Altuve of old. 21 home runs, he's hitting about a 285, and then you've got Christian Walker, Yenier Diaz, a combined 33 home runs out of these 2 guys, not hitting for a lot of on base. Walker's about a 300 with regards to his on base, 282 out of Yenier Diaz, but you've been able to get some good production out of Jake Myers, who's hitting above a 300. Victor Caratini has been able to give you 10 bombs, he's hitting for about a 265 as well. You've had a few guys that have been up, down, all around for this team, as you've had some of these young guns like Chas McCormick be inconsistent, but does feel like they're starting to be able to find a bit more offense, which is big because the identity of the team this season has been the bullpen. They're a top 3 team in terms of bullpen area with so many guys going out there getting the job done. Sean Dubin, Brian King, Brendan Sosa, Brian DeBreu, Josh Hader, a whole bunch of guys. They're giving you a sub 325 ERA, and for the Baltimore Orioles, this is a bottom 8 team with regards to their own bullpen ERA, as Felix Bautista hits the injured list. They trade away a pair of guys in Gregory Soto along with Sir Anthony Dominguez. So those guys are out, and now you're going to be relying upon the likes of a Yarmil Hidalgo, Grant Wolfram, Corbin Martin, a whole bunch of guys with above a 4.25 ERA. And for Baltimore, they trade away much of that lineup as well. So now you're very much relying upon Jackson Holliday along Gunnar Henderson, 14 home runs apiece. Holliday's hitting about a 250, 284 out of Henderson. He's been rock solid. Adley Rutschman, since coming off the injured list, has looked a little bit better as well. A little bit too little too late, but since coming off the injured list, he has been able to hit for about a 255 for the team. Still not giving you a ton of power, but you know what? You'll take it compared to what you were getting at the beginning part of the season for him. And then you've been able to get good production out of Jordan Westberg, 14 home runs at about 270 at-bats, hitting you 265. But that said, I do think that for Framber Valdez should be able to go out there, dominate this Orioles lineup. So 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or the under for the Astros. One delay up to a minus 122 on that run line, plus 237 or higher. Looking at the Orioles money line. 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Detroit Tigers, and they're on the road. They're facing off against the Minnesota Twins. We do know that Charlie Morton is going to be on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. For the Minnesota Twins, it is old TBD, so that is the big reason why this game is presently off the board, and it is looking like one Mr. Jose Urena is going to be getting the start for the Minnesota Twins. And if you do get Urena trying to Urena all over this game, I did set the Tigers at a minus 137 on the money line, minus 136 or better looking there, plus 138 or higher looking at the Twins, and then set a total of an 8.8, 8.5 or less to the over, 9 or higher to the under. Now, if you get something like a Pierce Ewell or a bullpen game, relatively the same price and the same total here, not going to be really fluctuating too much there, because with Jose Urena, he hasn't necessarily been lending a lot of length in the few starts that he has made with the Twins. By the way, he's on team number 4 this year, which I find that to be just hilarious. But that said, for Urena, he's made 2 starts for the Minnesota Twins. He's went 7 innings. He's allowed for the team 3 runs in those 7 innings. Not great, not terrible. Overall for the season, a 4.97 ERA. Between the 4 teams that he's been with, he's only getting about 5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So, I mean, this guy is pretty much washed. I don't think that you're going to be getting a whole heck of a lot there. And for Charlie Morton, he has had his struggles thus far this season as well. Overall for the season, a 5.48 ERA. The big thing for him is that he's just continuing to give up the walks. 4 walks per 9 innings. Now, he's still at an advanced age, getting a lot of swings and misses. About 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that is something that you do like to see, but when it comes to this Tigers bullpen, it has been one that has been a little bit shaky. They are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen area since the beginning of the month of June. You've had Will Vest along with Brian Herter be able to supply a sub 3.25 ERA, but the big issue has been Tommy Kahnle. Tommy Kahnle has seen that ERA just absolutely balloon up well north of a 4.5. He has not been great to say the least. And then you've got the likes of Tyler Holton, Chase Lee posting up above a 3.75 ERA as well. The Tigers have been very consistent with their offense. Top 8 team in terms of runs per game, headlined by 2 main managers and Riley Green, who's giving you 27 home runs, hitting at 270. Spencer Torkelson, 26 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 330 on base. But I mean, just up, down, all around. Other than Spencer Torkelson, pretty much everyone in the starting lineup hitting between about a 262, 272. Dylan Dingler, Kerry Carpenter is up to 21 home runs, and it's big that they've got him back. Wencio Perez, Cole Keith, Zach McKinstry, Gleyber Torres, a whole bunch of guys doing a solid job there. Javi Baez, and for the Minnesota Twins, I talked about the roughness that you're currently getting with the Detroit Tigers bullpen. You've got the exact same thing for the Twins as they trade away the likes of Danny Kalum, Yohan Duran, and company at the trade deadline. So now you're going to be relying upon Erasmo Ramirez, Cole Sands, Cody Funderburk, guys like this. They're posting up well above a 4.50 ERA. And for the lineup itself, you trade away the likes of Harrison Bader and company. So you've got Byron Buxton, who's been great. Byron Buxton has been able to give you 24 plus home runs. He's been able to supply the team with an on-base percentage that's hovering in that neighborhood about a 340. But I mean, really outside of that, it has been less than tremendous for many of these guys. Trevor Larnach is up to 16 home runs in the neighborhood, about 320 on base out of him. Carlos Correa gets traded away, so now you're looking to a little bit more Brooks Lee, who's hitting for about a 245 with only about a 285 on-base percentage. Edouard Julien has been hitting below the Bedos line of 200. Christian Vasquez goes on the injured list. That's not a bad thing because he's hitting below 200. Matt Wallner, while he's got 16 home runs, he's hitting about a 215 as well. So you've had a lot of roughness with that regard. So if you do get Charlie Morton against Jose Urena, Pierce Ewell, or a bullpen game, it's pretty much going to be the same. Said the Tigers at a minus 137, so minus 136 or less looking there, plus 138 or higher. And on the Twins, and then 8.5 or less, I like like the over a 9 or higher. The under 967, 968 on the card. It is the Chicago White Sox, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Kansas City Royals, as Noah Cameron is on the bump for the Royals, and Aaron Savali goes for the White Sox. Shocker, but the White Sox find themselves as an underdog, anywhere between plus 158 to a plus 165, and between minus 183 to a minus 194 is that number on the Kansas City Royals, and 9 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even, and even though the Kansas City Royals have been quite a bit better with their offense recently, this is still going to be a circumstance where I take a look at the under, and if you're looking to lay a run F with the Royals, you're going to be finding that at a plus 106 as of right now, pretty much a plus 105 or better. I'd be looking there. I set mine at a plus 103 for Noah Cameron. He's been getting a little bit more deception and a few more swings and misses recently, which is something that you do like to see, because towards the beginning part of the season, he really wasn't giving you too much of that. And for Noah Cameron, he's been just a really good, steady pitcher this far this season. 2.52 ERA. Now that 3.67 fielding dependent is a little bit worrisome, but he's given up 2 runs or fewer in 12 out of his 16 starts, only about 2.5 walks, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, so that's been pretty rock solid. And then for Aaron Savali, it has been just a disastrous season for him. He has to request a trade from the Milwaukee Brewers, and his reward is pitching for the Chicago White Sox, and he gave up a 9 spot in his last start against the Cleveland Guardians after it looked like he was getting things rolling. Like he had given up 1 earned run in his previous 3 starts, and then he gives up 9. Not great, to say the least, as for our good friend and Mr. Aaron Savali, thus far this season, 4.91 ERA, 4.42 fielding independent. He's getting about 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.5 walks per 9, so he's doing for a little bit of positivity. And the Chicago White Sox bullpen is actually not terrible. They're about a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. Mike Vasil's a long guy that they utilize quite a bit in their previous few games, so you have to think that he's going to be unavailable in this game. But someone like a Steven Wilson has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get some relatively good production out of someone like a Grant Taylor, who's down to about a 3.75 ERA. Tyler Gilbert as a long guy, he's down to about a 3.15 ERA. Now you've got Martin Perez back. He was utilized for a long role, so probably not going to be available here. And Dan Altavilla is on the injured list. Do want to be taking note of guys like Brandon Iser, Jordan Leisure posting up above a 4 ERA. But the biggest issue that you've got for the White Sox is that you just don't have a lot of offense. Bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Now you do have a quartet of guys between 12 and 14 home runs: Luis Robert, Miguel Vargas, Lennon Sosa, Andrew Benintendi. But everyone other than Sosa hitting below a 226. Sosa's actually been able to hit a 275, and then Mike Tauchman's up to about a 370 on base. Edgar Quiero, the backup catcher, has been able to about a 270 as well. But then you take a look at just the cavalcade of different guys. They're hitting at 225 or lower. Robert, Andrew Benintendi, Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas. When he's been at the big league level, Tim Elko, as he's been up, down, all around. You've got a lot of guys that are just not supplying for this team. And for the Kansas City Royals, this team has been just not providing any sort of offense at home this far this season. They're currently averaging 3.4 runs per game at home. That is dead last in all baseball. Again, it's been a little bit better post-trade deadline. They bring in Mike Yastrzemski, a guy that's able to give you above a 320 on base. Randall Grichuk is not like a guy that's going to light the world on fire, but it's better than what they were having. But Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, they're starting to hit the deep ball. For Pasquantino, 22 bombs, hitting for about a 320 on base. Salvador Perez has been able to give you 21 home runs. You do like to be able to see that. Bobby Witt Jr. obviously has been rock solid for the team, as he's been able to supply the team with a 346 on base, 30 stolen bases, 17 home runs, down a little bit with power, but you'll certainly take that, especially when you've got someone like a Drew Waters who's hitting at 243 and has 1 home run thus far this season. The young guys just have not been able to step up, as Nick Lofton, John Rave, both of these guys are hitting a 205 or lower, so that's a little bit of an issue. And I do think that for the Royals, it's big that you've got such a good bullpen for this team. They're in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen area. You get Daniel Lynch off the injured list. He's been able to give you sub-3 ERA. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves. I know that a few of these guys have had some fumbles recently, but they're both giving you a sub-3 ERA as well. It's been a good addition to be able to get Hunter Harvey off the injured list, as he has yet to give up a earned run in his 12 appearances as well. So do think that the Royals go out there, get the job done. Plus 105 or higher. I like that run line, and some I told it an 8.2, so I'm in on the under. 969, 970 on the card. The LA Angels are on the road. They're facing off against the Athletics, as Jack Perkins is on the bump for the Athletics. You say Kikuchi. I say he's starting for the Angels, and the Angels are in a pick'em game. They're between minus 103 to a minus 110. Same goes for the Athletics, and the total on this game is 10. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and did set the Angels at a minus 119 on the money line. I'm going to be one to lay it. For you say Kikuchi, I am still very concerned about the command, and he has been a little bit of a different pitcher when when he's been away from home rather than when he has been at home. For Yusei Kikuchi, overall for the season, a 3.37 ERA. He's posting up about a 3.90 fielding independent, though. He's been giving up about 3.8 walks per 9 innings, so that's been a little bit of an issue for him. But you take a look at Yusei Kikuchi at home versus on the road, and it is a pretty stark difference. As for Kikuchi at home, 2.40 ERA, he's actually giving up fewer home runs per 9 innings when he's away from home rather than at home, but the road ERA does go up to a 4.50, so that's been a little bit less than tremendous. And for Jack Perkins, he began the season as a little bit of a longer reliever for the Athletics. Now he's being thrusted into a bit more of a starter's role, and it's going to be interesting to see how he responds, as he has made starts in his last 2 appearances in 9 innings, giving up 7 runs. That's a little bit of a concern, and he's backed up by a bad bullpen. We'll touch upon that in a minute, but for Perkins, not really giving up the deep ball. In his 10 total appearances, 28 2/3 innings, he has allowed 3 home runs, so he's been pretty solid there. 8.8 strikeouts, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, so 4.08 ERA, 3.77 fielding dependent. Could certainly be worse on that front, but that said, you do take a look at what you're going to be able to get behind him, and it's not necessarily that great. This has been an Athletics bullpen that has been in the bottom 5 in all of baseball in terms of ERA for the Athletics. You've had a few guys go on the injured list. You trade away Mason Miller at the trade deadline, so now you're relying upon the likes of Valdo Bido, Mitch Spence, Justin Sterner. A lot of guys are posting up above a 3 ERA. Elvis Alvarado's up to about a 3.65 ERA, and I will say, Sean Newcomb, Michael Kelly, these guys have actually been pretty rock solid in the bullpen, so we'll give a little bit of credit where it is due there, but on the other end, you do have a Angels team that they themselves are a bottom 5 team in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA, so that's been a little bit less than tremendous for this LA Angels team. It's a case where you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of these guys night in and night out. Kenley Jansen has been able to lower his ERA to a sub 3.25, and Brock and Rolberg, he's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA as well, but that said, when you've got the likes of a Connor Brogdon, Ryan Zephyrion, Sam Bachman, so many guys posting up a 4.50 ERA or higher, that's a big giant issue for this team. And for the LA Angels, it's very much an all or nothing team, as they do rank in the bottom 7 of the big leagues in terms of on base percentage, but in the top 5 in terms of home runs on a per basis. You've had Taylor Ward supply 29 home runs. He's up to about a 320 on base, which you'd like to see. Mike Trout, 20 home runs, but even he's hitting just a 238 thus far this season. You've had Luis Renifo just have a miserable season. Been a little bit better recently, but hitting for a 250 with 7 home runs is just not going to cut it. Nolan Schunall, 350 on base is solid. Zach Neto, 270 average, 19 home runs is great. And Joe Adell does have 25 home runs, but now he's giving you only about a 293 on base. And then Logan Hoppe, I always mention him, 277 on base with 18 home runs. So lots of extremes there. And for the Athletics, this has been an offense that has really been able to get things going. A quartet of different guys that have been able to give you at least 22 home runs this season. And I mean, these guys are doing a great job of being able to get on base as well. All 4 guys hitting at least a 262. Tyler Soderstrom, Brent Rooker, Shea Langeliers, and Kurtz all doing a great job there. Kurtz is up to about a 380 on base. Langeliers and Rooker both hitting at 272. Now they've had a few injuries, and you trade away Miguel Andujar at the trade deadline, so that's a little bit of an issue for you. But that said, you still have been able to have Luis Urias do an okay job in terms of being able to move the line. You've been able to have a few younger guys be able to step up, give you a little bit more of something, as they're looking at someone like a Carlos Cortez, who's been hitting a 255 to be able to fill the void towards the bottom of the lineup, especially with Jacob Wilson currently being on the injured list. But I do think that you're going to be able to get a plentiful amount of runs the way that they have been flowing out there in Sacramento, semi-total 10.3, so like the over, and with the Angels, all the way up to a minus 118 on that money line. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the Miami Marlins. They hit the road. They're facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Lucas Giolito is on the bump for the Red Sox, and it is one Sandy Alcantara who's going to be on the bump for the Miami Marlins. Currently doing this while we're really not seeing any sort of openers with regards to this game, because we were unsure if we were actually going to get Sandy Alcantara or not, but I've got my handicap. I set the Red Sox at a minus 193 on the money line. One would go up to a minus 105 with that run line. Would be at least a plus 184 to be able to fire in on the Marlins, and then set a total 9.6, 9.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 10 or higher to the under. Sandy Alcantara has just been absolutely terrible this year. Like, I wish I could put it any other way, but my goodness gracious. For Sandy Alcantara, it's as if someone abducted the real Sandy Alcantara after he had off-season surgery and they replaced him with an imposter, because this guy is right now posting up a 6.55 ERA, 3.5 walks per 9 innings. That's the most that he's had since like 2019. He's only getting 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, career low for him. He just has not been great, and it's not getting any better. He's given up a combined 11 runs in his last 2 starts, so that's very much less than tremendous. And for Lucas Giolito, he's had a little bit of an up and down season, as he had a very rough start to the season, but the way that he's been able to round into form, I would say over the last 2 months. He had that one start against the LA Angels where he got completely shelled, but ever since then it's been rock solid. Last 11 starts, the team is 8-3 in them. In that time span, 243 ERA, albeit a 425 fielding dependent, as he's given up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings in the stretch, but he's also giving up fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings as well, so that's something that you love to see. And something else that you love to see is the way that the Boston Red Sox are just ripping the cover off the ball, and they've been able to get some reinforcements with Roman Anthony being able to come in and give this team nearly a 400 on base. Masataka Yoshida spent much of the year on the injured list. He's been able to come back. Even though Trevor Story doesn't necessarily give you the world's greatest on base, he's still been able to do a nice job being able to supply this team with 18 home runs. Ceddanne Rafael is hitting about at 260. He's been able to give the team 14 home runs. Wilder Abreu has been able to wild out 21 plus bombs out of him. Even someone like Carlos Narvaez is doing a great job in terms of moving the line as well. So I really like the way that this lineup has been able to come together for the team. And then on the other end, you've got a lineup in the Miami Marlins that has actually been really good at hitting on the road. They're a top 6 team in terms of runs per game away from home, even though they are one of the bottom teams in all baseball in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. It's been all about Kyle Stowers and what he's been able to bring to the table for this team. For Kyle Stowers, how about 25 home runs and above a 370 on base? He has been the heart and soul of this lineup. And then you've had Xavier Edwards, even though he hits for no power whatsoever. I believe that he's had 2 home runs as far this season. He's been able to do a nice job hitting a 300 for the team. And you do have quite a few guys that are able to just find a way to move the line. Augustin Ramirez, not necessarily one of them. 17 home runs, though, so he's been able to give the team a little bit of power. But then you've got someone like Liam Hicks, who's been able to give you about a 355 on base. Roberto Hernandez, a little bit of a young guy, give you about a 342 on base. 7 home runs at his first 140 at-bats. So you've got a lot of these guys coming along for the ride. And you do have a pair of teams that have been solid in the bullpen. For the Miami Marlins, since the beginning of the month of June, they are a top 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA. Like Picard, Ronnie Enriquez, Anthony Bender, Cade Gibson, these guys have all been able to give you a sub 340 ERA. And for the Boston Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman has been one of the most lights out closers that you're going to find in all of baseball. 13 punch-outs per 9 innings, sub 175 ERA. But it's not just him. You've been able to have the long guy in Garrett Whitlock, Greg Weiser, Chris Murphy, Brandon Bernardino, a whole bunch of guys be able to give this team a sub 310 ERA as well. So do you think that Sandy Alcantara continues to get crushed? I'd be willing to take the Miami Marlins if I got a plus 195 or higher. So there's that aspect of things for the Red Sox. Looking at them at a minus 105 or better on the run line and set a total 9.6. So 9.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 10 or higher to the under. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. We know that it's going to be Joey Cantillo for Cleveland, and right now the betting board reads TBD for the Atlanta Braves, which is why this game is presently off the board. Now, taking a look at the projections that we've got, right now it's slated to be Eric Fetty who's going to be going for the Atlanta Braves. I was seeing a little bit before Herson Waldrop as well. Now, I handicapped as if we were going to get Fetty versus Cantillo, so set the Guardians at a minus 146, minus 145 or better. Looking at the Guardians plus 147 or higher, the Braves, and I set a total of an 8.8, so 8.5 or less and on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Now, I will say this, if you do get Herson Waldrop, I would be willing to make the Braves closer about it, like a plus 130 or so. I still would be sticking with the 8.5 or less to the over, a 9 or higher to the under, but Eric Fetty is just not great, to say the least, right now. This guy has given up at least 3 earned runs in each out of his last 7 starts. Since going on over to the Braves, he has allowed 11 runs in his 3 starts. This is a span of 15 innings, so he's posting up an ERA hovering right around about a 6 with the Atlanta Braves right now. So, I mean, things have just completely toilet bowled for him, and he's not getting any swings and misses. For Eric Fetty, he's got a fielding independent that's right on par with his 5.40 ERA because he's giving up 4 walks per 9 innings. He's getting fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. So, the fear that you've got with Joey Cantillo is that he's just wild. Now, for Joey Cantillo, the swing and miss stuff is absolutely amazing with him, and he's got a lot of upside as a pitcher. Right now, 4.11 ERA, fielding independent of a 3.93, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 4.7 walks per 9 innings, that's a little bit less than amazing, and it's a big reason why he hasn't been able to lend a lot of length. 5 1/3 innings or fewer in 3 of his last 5 starts. He's been able to give you a little bit more recently, and this is a Guardians bullpen that, even without Emmanuel Clase since the beginning of the month of June, they've actually been a top 5 unit with having Eric Zabrowski come off the injury list. He, Cade Smith, Nick Enright have all been guys give you a sub-3 ERA. Colby Allard has been a nice long guy. Hunter Gaddis has been all over the place, so that's been a bit of an issue. But Jacob Junis, after a rough start to the season, he's been solid as well. Now, the big issue that you got for the Cleveland Guardians is actually with regards to the lineup, as it's a very top-heavy lineup. Jose Ramirez, it's obviously been amazing. 25 home runs, 365 on base. Steven Kwan is sitting at 275. You've had Kyle Manzardo really start to pick it up. 21 bombs with about a 320 on base. And then you just have a cavalcade of different guys. And right now, not moving the line for you as right now hitting at 211 or lower. Bo Naylor, Nolan Jones, David Fry, Will Wilson, Austin Hedges, the backup catcher. So, you just need to get a little bit more there. But for the Atlanta Braves, this team is in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of run production as well. And you've got now Ronald Acuna Jr. out, so that's really hurt them. Marcell Ozuna, along with Matt Olson, have been solid. Both of these guys, about a 360 to a 370 on base. Ozuna's up to 20 home runs, 19 bombs out of Matt Olson. And then you've had Ozzy Albies just not be able to live up to his billing. 222 average with 9 home runs. Michael Harris is up to 13 home runs, but 267 on base is pitiful. Nick Allen with a 223 with 0 home runs has been rough. Drickson Profar starting to pick it up a little bit at the plate, but about a 245 average, 350 on base. He's been much better with the glove rather than him being out there at the plate. And for the Atlanta Braves, this team has fallen into the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERAs. Raciel Iglesias and Aaron Bummer both above a 4 ERA. Just not cutting it. Dylan Dodd has been up and down whenever he's gotten his opportunities. They pick up Tyler Kinley, who's been relatively okay since coming on over from the Colorado Rockies. And you've also had a guy that I really like in Dylan Lee be able to supply about a sub-3 ERA. So, some of these guys have been relatively solid, but it's been a team of a lot of inconsistency. So, if you do indeed get Mr. Fetty going against Joey Cantillo, minus 145 or better, looking at the Guardians, plus 147 or higher, the Braves, and then 8.5 or less in on the over 9 or higher, the under. Keep in mind, Hurston Waldrop, that becomes more like a minus 130 number if he gets a start for the Bravos. 975, 976 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the New York Mets. Sean Manaea is on the bump for the Mets, and Luis Castillo goes for Seattle. And Seattle does find themselves as a bit of an underdog here, anywhere between even money to plus 110. In the neighborhood of minus 117 to minus 125 is that number on the Mets. 8.5 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. I did set my total here at an 8.4, so at the 8.5, I'm going to be in on the under. Right now, we're waiting to see if we can get a little bit of movement here. For the Mets, I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 115 on the money line. I actually do like Sean Manaea and the fact that he's come off the injured list, and he's been able to give you some pretty good zip on that fastball. Right now, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, has given up 1.3 bombs per 9, but in his 6 total appearances, 433 ERA, but a 381 fielding dependence. So I do think that things are going to get a little bit better after he gave up a combined 9 runs in 9 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts. And for Luis Castillo, it's a case where he just hasn't been the same pitcher on the road rather than at home. A 3.19 ERA, but down to about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. That is a career low for him. Fielding dependence more around about a 372, but again, he has really been able to excel when he has been in Seattle. When he's been on the road, he has looked like a very much mere mortal, as he's giving you a 241 ERA at home. This despite the fact that at home and on the road, he's giving up in both locations right around about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. As a matter of fact, he's giving up fewer home runs per 9 away from home rather than at home, but the ERA balloons up to a 4.31 when he is on the road, so that's a bit of an issue. Now, the good news is the Seattle Mariners are a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Pizarro, Gabe Spire, all being able to give you a sub-3 ERA has been rock solid for this team. And then for the New York Mets, Edwin Diaz sometimes makes things a little bit adventurous, but he's been one of the better relievers in all of baseball. They do pick up a few pieces at the trade deadline. Ryan Helsley helps out this bullpen tremendously, though I will say Gregory Soto doesn't really do a lot for me, but Reed Garrett has been able to give you a sub-325 ERA as well, so I like what he's able to bring to the table. When it comes to the Mets, it's a top-heavy lineup with a quartet of guys. They're going to give you at least 20 home runs. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, and for Soto, he's been able to give you about a 383 on base. Alonso, more like a 355 on base. Towards the bottom, Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty now hitting between about a 232, 236, and Beatty's up to 13 home runs, but Tyrone Taylor is hitting at 200. The catcher spot has been a big giant mess. You do have Starling Marte have now been able to hit about a 280 as well, so it's been a little bit of an up and down team. And for Seattle, the big fear that I do have with this team is that they are becoming a little bit all or nothing, as you've got big jumper Cal Raleigh, 45 home runs, but we just heard it from Colby Marchio. He either gives you a home run or he gives you nothing. He has been able to provide a 350 on base, so he is drawing some walks for this team. And then you do have the likes of Ori Polanco, Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, in between a 248 to a 258. Arozarena and Rodriguez 23 home runs apiece, and Arozarena up to about a 350 on base. Polanco hitting hitting about a 250 with more like a 315 on base, but he's supplying 18 home runs. You've been able to get some good production as well. JP Crawford in terms of getting on base with a 360 on base. So interesting circumstance here with the Mets. If we can get them at a minus 115 or better, I'll be looking at them on the money line. And did somebody tell it at 8.4. New York, a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark with a Seattle Mariners team that tends to be a little bit more all or nothing. So looking at the under, and most likely the Mets at a minus 115 or better. 977, 978 on the card. The New York Yankees are on the road facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals as Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for the Cardinals and Luis Eel goes for the Yankees. Yankees are between minus 126 to minus 135 favorites. Plus 108 to a plus 117 is that number on St. Louis. 8.5 is the total. The over is minus 125. The under is plus 105. Did somebody tell it at 8.7. Now, if you get to a 9, that'll become my buy point on the under, and I'm seeing a 9 having a under juice of minus 120 and the over at an even. Personally, I would rather have an 8.5 over rather than a 9 under, even though the Cardinals have been a bottom 3 team in terms of run production since the beginning of the month of July, mainly because Luis Eel is the living sort of format of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn. He has made 2 starts thus far this season, 8 2/3 innings. He has, in those 8 2/3 innings, given up 5 walks, and he's gotten 10 strikeouts, and that has been his entire career. For his career, Luis Eel, 10.4 strikeouts per 9 innings to 4.8 walks per 9 innings. So you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of him with Andre 3000 Palante. You know a little bit more of what you're going to get out of him, and you know that he's not going to give you a lot of swings and misses. As for Mr. Palante, 4.95 ERA. The fielding dependent is in that neighborhood about a 4.52, 5.8 strikeouts at 3 walks per 9 innings, allowing about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. It's been a little bit of a less than savory run for him with 5+ runs given up in 3 out of his last 5 starts, and now faces off against a New York Yankees team that obviously you've got some good firepower in this lineup with Aaron Judge back in the fold. He's been able to give you above a 440 on base. He's right now judge, jury, and executioner with the way that he's been able to pound out the deep ball up to 38 home runs this season. But I mean, it's not just him. Cody Bellinger, 22 home runs. He's hitting at 270. You've been able to have Jazz Chisholm along Trent Grisham hit for 21 and 20 home runs respectively. Chisholm hitting for about a 330 on base. You've got Trent Grisham up to about a 345 on base. But even though these guys have hit for a lot of power, Anthony Volpe, 18 home runs. Austin Wells, 15 home runs. With Wells, a 264 on base. Volpe, about a 288 on base. You need a little bit more there. Ben Rice has been a little bit inconsistent recently, and this has been a New York Yankees lineup that has been very inconsistent themselves. Now, Luke Weaver is starting to look like his old self, but Devin Williams has been pooping the bed all season long with above a 4 ERA. Tim Hill has been solid with about a 3 ERA, and Yuri De Los Santos has actually been really good as a long guy with about a 250 ERA. But then on the other end, you've got yourself a St. Louis Cardinals team that, though they do trade away Ryan Helsley at the deadline, you still have a relatively good bullpen, in my opinion, as I know that Jojo Romero did blow a save a few days ago against the Colorado Rockies, but you got Kyle Leahy, Riley O'Brien, Matt Savanson, a whole bunch of guys that will be able to give this team a sub 325 ERA. For the Cardinals, the big issue for this team is that they are in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but you do have Wilson Contreras right now pounding out 16 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 340 on base. Nolan Arenado's banged up, and frankly, he just has not had a good season in general, but Alec Burleson, Brandon Donovan are both hitting about a 280 with Burleson, give you 15 home runs. Lars Nootbaar is up to 13 bombs, so his on-base percentage leaves something to be desired, but getting back Ivan Herrera, 370 on base, 10 home runs, that should be able to help this team out just a skoch. With the Yankees, I did set them at a minus 131. I do think that they get to Palante. I do think that they slug their way to victory, so one lay up to a minus 130 with the Yankees on the money line, and here at the 8.5, I'm in on the over, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Landon Roop is on the bump for the Giants. Joe Boyle, Boyle rules, goes for the Rays. 8 is the total, under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and with the Giants, you're going to be getting them between minus 127 to minus 132 favorites, between plus 108 to plus 117 is that number on San Francisco, and I did set the Giants money line here at a minus 123, so if we could get down a few more pennies, I'm going to be willing to lay it just for giggles. We want to take a look at that initial FanDuel opener, and right now for the Giants, you'd be getting plus 155 on that run line. If we could actually get that to a plus 160, I'd be looking there, so in some form or capacity, I do think that I'm going to be landing on the Giants on the run line. We do need to see what we're going to be able to get in terms of more of these overnight numbers, though. But for Landon Roop, he's going to be making his first start in quite some time. He's coming off the injured list, but for him, he's just been a very steady Eddie guy thus far this season, and I do think that he's going to do a nice job holding down the 4-year 3.11 ERA. Again, his last start came on the 22nd of July, so that was about 3 or so weeks ago. But that said, for Mr. Landon Roop, he's been able to keep things out in front of him with giving up only about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. The 3.5 walks per 9 innings have been a little bit bit less than tremendous, but still, he's been able to do a nice job holding it down. And for Joe Boyle, he's got really good swing and miss stuff, but he just needs to learn how to control it a little bit more. 4.7 walks per 9 innings, 9 punch-outs per 9, 3.82 ERA, but a 4.97 fielding opponent, and he was really good as a long reliever. Here in his starts, though, it's just been less than amazing. In his last 3 starts, he has only been able to last a grand total of 12 and 2/3 innings. He has given up 12 runs, 10 of which earned, giving up 4 home runs in that time span, so that's a bit of an issue. You do have a Tampa Bay Rays team that does rank in the top 10 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I have no idea why they have Eric Orzay currently at the minor league level, but they have Eric Orzay currently at the minor league level. That said, you still have quite a few guys who are able to go out there, hold down the fort for this team. Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks have been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. The young gun in Ian Seymour, when they've given him opportunities, he's been relatively good as well. He's right now posting up a sub 2 ERA. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, getting back Brandon Lau, that allows this team to be able to get loud, as he's been supplying for the team 24 home runs, hitting about a 275, spent quite a bit of time on the injured list. And Junior Caminero very silently is up to 34 home runs, doesn't draw a lot of walks, but he's hitting about a 260. Yandy Diaz is up to 20 bombs. He's been able to about a 280 for this unit as well. And then you've got one of the best base stealing teams in all of baseball. Jake Magnum hitting a 275 with 17 stolen bases. Chandler Simpson, 33 stolen bases. He's been able to hit 300 as well. The catcher spot has been an issue. Taylor Walls has been an issue, along with Christopher Morel. All these guys hitting at 220 or lower. But for the San Francisco Giants, right now averaging 3.5 runs per game at home. That is the lowest mark out there in the National League, albeit it's very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark. But you expected more out of Rafael Devers. Rafael Devers in 49 games has pounded out 8 home runs and is sitting at 231. You just need to be getting a little bit more there. You've had Matt Chapman supply 16 home runs. The 230 batting average is less than savory, but up to about a 337 on base. Eloy Ramos at 340 on base with 14 home runs. Jung-Ho Lee has been up and down, but now it's hitting more like about a 260, and team trades away Mike Yastrzemski at the trade deadline, so they've been relying upon some of these less than tremendous guys out there in the outfield. Christian Cos, he's more of an infielder. He's been able to about a 250, so he's been able to wise up there. Luis Matos had to get sent down to the minor league level because he's doing nothing. Gerard Encarnacion, in a small sample size, has been able to give you a little bit of power, but not really hitting for a lot of average. And for the Giants, they're still a top 5 team overall this season in terms of bullpen ERA, but this is not the same bullpen that we saw once before. Camilo Doval, Tyler Rogers get traded away. Eric Miller is currently on the injured list. Do have Randy Rodriguez supplying a sub 2 ERA. Troy Lucchesi has been good as a long guy, his sub 350 ERA. Spencer Bivens has had his issues, so it's an interesting circumstance here with the Giants. If I can get them at a minus 122 or better, I'll be in on the money line, or if I can get that plus 160 run line, which I think I'm going to be able to get one of those two, so in some form or capacity, going to be in on the Giants. I did set my total here at a 7.9, so at the 8, I'm in on the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Colby Marchio of Your Betting News for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larry CM, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm coming at you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.